Hello and welcome to another episode of B6 and Beyond with me, Ben, and Corey. Corey, how are you, mate? You right?
I'm not bad, Ben. How are you, mate?
Yeah, all good apart from this heat. Typical bloke in Britain I am. As soon as a bit of heat comes out, I'm complaining like a mad, but as soon as it's freezing, I want the heat to come back. So, yeah, we're here to talk about the ongoings of Aston Villa and beyond, as always. And I was going to start this, well, we was going to start this, should I say, by talking about the lack of movement from Aston Villa. Now, we probably still will touch on that, but I think it's a pleasurable chat to talk about. Aston Villa are set to make their first signing. How do you feel about this one? So, Marco Bizot is his name is. How do you obviously very limited knowledge. Haven't seen much of him play myself, but from what I can read into his stats, and I know you've had a look at his stats. We just had a chat offline. He's played a lot in the Champions League recently, and he's made quite a lot of appearances for Brest. Just seems like the Robin Olsen replacement. That's my view on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you look at Spurs signing Kudus and Gibbs White, people like that, and I mean, this is right up there. It's an unbelievable signing for us to make. World class goalkeeper. Obviously, in all serious, like you said, Ben, limited knowledge on him. He seems to be. He's very experienced. Obviously, as you've said, it's a Robin Olsen replacement. It's not going to be our starting goalkeeper. I mean, hopefully there's no dodgy business and he ends up being our starting goalkeeper. But the stats he's got, I think it was 23 clean sheets last season, 9 Champions League appearances, like you've mentioned. They're not bad stats for a number two. Yes, okay, it might have been the French league, but at the end of the day, he's still got to stop the ball from going in the back of the net, and he's more than capable of doing that. I think I've spoke to you a couple of times offline and actually in person about Joe Gauchi and how I don't think he's ready yet in terms of when we've seen him play against Wickham in the cup. He didn't look confident. There was a couple of other games he played and he didn't really fill me with any sort of confidence in him. If it was a case of Martinez getting injured, it was almost at a point where I probably would have preferred Olsen going in goal. So again, Gauchi's still young. He's got a lot of improvements to make, but I think this is a good signing to make. It's a tactical one, similar to Norgard at Arsenal. It's not a flashy signing by any means. It's not, but it's a position we needed. I think a lot of Villa fans will say at the start of the window a backup goalkeeper was needed, and it's a smart bit of business if we get it over the line quick enough.
Yeah, I think it's a clever bit of business. For me, like one of the big things that stands out to me, which is being reported, is the wage is apparently £17,500, which is absolutely nothing. And if you look at that in comparison to what we were paying Robin Olsen last year, which was around the 50k mark, that is a massive drop, and that's what Villa are looking to do massively over the next few weeks or months leading up to the UEFA squad registration, where we need to reduce our SCR. We're all aware of the situation that Villa are currently in. The agreement that we've made to reduce our wage bill by 20%. What and how that's going to happen, I'm not quite sure. You would imagine with that to happen, Villa would have to lose a big earner. That's why, personally, myself, I do see that the potential of someone like an Emiliano Martinez probably will still leave Aston Villa, and that's just simply because of the wages. Obviously, we have got Coutinho off the books recently, which was a massive plus for us. Really need to shift then Donkey. He needs to go. Unfortunately, the big problem that we've got at Aston Villa, and I know we're going a little bit off tangent here from the signing of Marco Bizot, but the big problem we've got is we're still feeling the works of Steven Gerrard and Christian Perslow and Johan Lang. It's kind of where we're at, unfortunately, when they're offering 100 and was it 130, 140, maybe 120. It's around the 120 to 140,000 mark for Luca Dean, which realistically I like Luca Dean, and I think he's been a good servant for Aston Villa. But why on earth are you paying that kind of wage to a left back?
Yeah,
I
I
just
mean,
baffling.
funnily enough that you mentioned Luca Dean, one of the things I sort of thought about, sort of off camera and something like that, is we've seen Alex Moreno come back. Obviously, we'll talk a bit about Villa and the lack of incomings and that sort of thing, but someone like Moreno coming back off his loan for Forest, my thought process was potentially if Digne doesn't sign a new contract with a wage cut. I know it was reported that Tyrone Mings took a 50% wage cut with his new contract, which, if that's the case, speaks volumes about him as a man and how much he values the club. I think if Digne is offered a new contract, it will be a case of, like you say, it won't be any improvements. It would be probably dropping down to 90, 80k, which if he's willing to take it, great, I'd keep him on for another season. But if he is someone who we do shift, I do wonder if someone like Alex Moreno does come back into the side and plays back up to Ian Maatsen potentially.
Do you know what? I have not even considered that, and I'm on board with what you're saying. As much as Alex Moreno dropped off, and I felt personally like his performances when he come back from his injury fell off a cliff. To be honest with you, and he really didn't set the world alight at Forest when he went there. But ultimately, for a second choice left back, is he good enough? And the answer for me is 100%. And if you can shift off, you say 120k, let's just say for Luca Dean's wage, it would be an absolute no-brainer in my opinion. And like I say, this isn't a dig at Luca Dean at all. I want to just make that very clear because I really love Luca Dean, and I think he's been one of the standout performers since Unai Emery has come in my opinion. But this is kind of the state of play that we're at the moment. We need to do some real surgery on the squad. And if the only other areas then you can start looking at for me, then is your likes of Leon Bailey. But are you going to get rid of Leon Bailey at this point right now? We're not going to talk too much about Leon Bailey. We all know what he's been up to. He's been one of the most active in this transfer window. Anyway. Obviously, he's one that we want to shift on. Leon Bailey, I'm pretty confident of that. But we need to find a buyer. It's as simple as that. And if it was as simple as that, we'd probably have him out by now. Obviously, you had the rumours at the start of the PSR window, if you want to call it, of him making a move to Saudi Arabia to, I can't remember the name of the club now. It's the new club that's just come up into the Saudi league, who are meant to be absolutely wadded. And that hasn't materialised, which I thought, because at one point it seemed like that was gathering a bit of momentum and it just completely went dead. Talking about things going dead, we just spoke briefly about Emiliano Martinez. We haven't heard any whispers about that recently. It just seems to be, and I'll tell you what, we are slowly edging into the topic we wanted to discuss, and that is Villa's activity. It just seems to be very, very, very quiet at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, obviously, as you say, the topic we wanted to discuss is... Listen, me and you spoke about this multiple times. I know there's Villa fans who have different views and conflicting views. For me personally, I'm not too concerned. I think if it gets to a week before the season starts and we still sign no one, that's when the concerns come in. But at the end of the day, I think, yes, Spurs have got some smart business over the line. These are the sort of teams where we were ahead of them. I think it's fair to say we're ahead of Man United. We were ahead of Spurs quite comfortably. I think Spurs, with their signings, it's smart business. They're trying to crawl their way back in. Chelsea, again, as much as there's a few interesting signings, they're still signing anyone and everyone, which, again, like we've spoke about before, they'll be challenging for everything this year. They want to compete for everything. They've got the money to do so. Man United, again, listen, for me personally, I don't think Man United are going to be too much to worry about. I think they'll probably improve, but not enough to scare anyone. But at the same time, I do think they are still signing players, and like you say, from our point of view, it's very quiet. There's nothing, even the outgoings now, like you say, it's gone quiet. The Leon Bailey one, I do wonder if maybe there's second thoughts just to think, would he be a good squad player to have for Europa League? I think he would be, but again, things like wages and stuff, if we're looking to cut wages, we need to be sort of replacing him with a younger model who is going to take less money, basically.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing for me, which people have every right to feel a bit apprehensive and a bit nervous around the whole situation, but if you look at it this way, everyone is absolutely not ecstatic, that's probably the wrong word. Everyone is talking about, and there's a lot of media hype, there's a lot of hype around social media around the signing of Morgan Gibbs-White today to Tottenham, which every right to, because he'll be a fantastic player for Spurs in my opinion. But he's being signed as their superstar, which James Maddison was meant to be that player. From a Villa perspective, we've already got our superstar, we've got Morgan Rogers, and the Villa not re-signing Marco Asensio, which we'll touch on very shortly, tells me that the plan for next season is to play our star boy in that central area. And personally, I feel, and I'm just going to say it out just straight to the camera. I know I echo the thoughts of most, say 95% of the Villa fans out there who think that he was more effective in the first half of the season in that central area. And the only reason we've seen a dip in his performance levels, and we say we've seen a dip in his performance levels, but if you go and look at his productivity from the right hand side, he was still getting goals, he was still getting assists, but he just wasn't on the ball driving the team forward. I look back to that Manchester City game at Villa Park, and he absolutely tore Manchester City apart, and he literally had them walking around Villa Park on a leash, and he was fantastic. And I hope that we see more of that this season, because if we do, I feel personally that Morgan Rogers has not just one level to go to. I think we have got an absolute superstar on our hands, and I think he could go a lot further. You look at the likes of Cunha that's gone this summer. Cunha, Gibbs White, who can play in that similar sort of area as him. Morgan Gibbs White has got, not Morgan Gibbs White, Morgan Rogers has got years on them. He's still a lot younger than them. You imagine Morgan Rogers when he's 25, 26, when he's a bit more developed. I genuinely think he's going to be a scary footballer. And there's a reason why he's linked. There's a reason why every time he's linked away, it's big money, isn't it?
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think another one. Listen, I'm sort of one of the minority. I think that I love Jacob Ramsey. I don't think it's a minority that love Jacob Ramsey. I think a lot of Villa fans love Jacob Ramsey. He is sort of that new, sort of that boyhood player that we all wanted in the team, sort of thing. But I'm one of the ones who would be reluctant to sell him, and for the exact same reasons that you've mentioned with Morgan Rogers. I think Morgan Rogers playing off in the centre is going to be brilliant for us. It's probably his best position, but also I think Ramsey being able to play off the left is going to benefit him, being able to play off the right. Anywhere we can get Ramsey in. For me personally, I think this is a make or break season for Jacob Ramsey. I think if he does stay, which is still up in the air at the moment, he's obviously not one of the higher earners, so he's probably not one where it's a massive thing to get him off the books. But I think we can all agree that from a couple of years ago where he was to now, he's sort of not reached that level again. The injury was obviously a horrible injury. It was one of them where he came back a bit too early and made it worse. But this season is really a season where if him and Rodgers can sort of link up well, there's potential there. Like you say, they're both similar age. I think Rodgers 22, Ramsey's 23, 24. You could be looking at 4 or 5 years' time, two of the best young players in the league being two of the big names mentioned.
Yeah.
And that's what we want at Villa. We want something like that.
They've got a good relationship as well, haven't they? Them two,
Yeah.
you can tell, and not obviously off the pitch stuff that we see, the content that they put out, the Villa, and just in general the way they play, you can see that they've got a bond on the pitch. I did think that Ramsey would get sold. I ain't gonna lie. I did think he would get sold. I thought he might have got sold in the PSR window if someone come in and offered us, say, because there was a lot of whispers about a potential Harvey Barnes and Jacob Ramsey swap deal. But I think now we have navigated the that PSR window by cooking the books. I don't see him going because I don't see any benefit from Villa selling him at this point, because his stocks are going to be quite low because he hasn't performed in the Premier League. Whereas if he stays with us this season, has a ridiculously good season, I would keep him again. And reason being is because we've got Champions League money coming into the end of next season, into next season's books. But the season after, that's when the Champions League money falls out. Now, I know the difference between Champions League and Europa League isn't as big as some people actually think it is. It's probably about, if we get to the... I worked it out as if we get to the final, basically. If we get to the final, and then that would kind of not be far off what it would be around the quarterfinals, I believe it is. So, and I think we can generally go that far. That's going off tangent anyway. Yeah, but it's just more so to identify what would be the need to sell Jacob Ramsey now. It just would not make sense, in my opinion.
I completely agree, and I think to touch on obviously the Ramsey thing, we said about rumours going quiet. There was 2 clubs that were interested in him, and those 2 clubs over the last 2 days have found their players. It was Newcastle and Spurs. Obviously Newcastle have gone for Elanga. I know he plays on a different side to Ramsey, but I think that's probably going to be their one and only big signing. Newcastle, I think a lot of their sort of stuff will be similar to us, where how we've managed to build good squad depth, that's what they're going to be trying to do. They won't be able to spend 50, 60 million on every player they buy, so they don't need to. I don't think Ramsey's a necessity for them. I think Ramsey was probably a backup if they couldn't get an Elanga in. And then Spurs was the other one. Obviously Spurs have gone for Gibbs White and Kudus. For me personally, it's biased. Like I say, I love Jacob Ramsey. I think if Jacob Ramsey can get fully fit and back to his best, I think he'll be much better than those 2. that's my personal bias. It's probably an unpopular opinion, but again, Spurs have obviously come in and got their 2 players. Newcastle have got their player, so Ramsey has probably been sort of in Unai Emery's ear now, just saying like, "This is it. We both know this is my season. Let's crack on from here."
I didn't mention this to you offline, so just a bit of information. I don't know what to make of it. It might be absolutely nothing, but if there is any Villa fans that pick up on this and are watching this, my friend was in Verona Airport yesterday, and he said that he saw one of the Villa officials in there. I don't know who on earth we'd be looking at from Verona. He might be an absolutely nobody, but he said he was suited and booted, and he said he recognised him. Well, my mate's a Wolves fan, so he would have no idea who it is. So you never know. There might be an.
As I said, my Italian geography is not the best, so I'm not sure if there's any sort of cities local that might be sort of other players potentially.
No idea. Maybe he was meeting Douglas Luiz over there somewhere.
I mean, he's in Rio at the moment, so he's got a long way to fly. But
it ain't him then. Yeah, well, that's just If any Villa fans have got any ideas on that, please reach out, because I'd like to learn myself, because I ain't got a clue who would potentially be looking at out there. But yeah, anyway, anything more from the Villa you want to go over?
I think one player who we forgot to mention in the episode, which I'm looking forward to seeing actually, is Mascara, young centre back again, who we signed. Obviously, we spoke about Zeraquin Redmond. I may have pronounced that wrong.
Zepaquino Redmond.
Yeah, that's the one. And Yazin Oshan yesterday on the podcast, which has come out. But I think, again, Mascara is someone we sort of grazed over. I completely forgot about him, to be honest, but obviously saw him in Alex Moreno's training pictures today. What do you make of that? What do you think his sort of piece is going to be this year? Do you think it'll be similar to Oshan, or...?
I think he might get sent out on loan again. I think he's still very, very, very raw. He come back to us after his loan spell, didn't he? And he didn't really feature at all. He definitely didn't feature with the first team. And even if I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember looking at it, and he weren't even massively featuring for the 21s or the 18s. Maybe he's probably too old. How old is he now, Mascara?
I believe he's 19.
Yeah, so I thought he could have gone for the 18s at that time. But anyway, he wasn't really featuring, which I just found really bizarre. Again, I don't really know much about him, but I would like to think if Villa have brought him in, there's got to be some sort of some talent there. But we've signed some duds in our past, so I won't completely hold out all hopes on these players. But ultimately, I think Villa are signing them, and with the hope that, brilliant, they might progress to be competing in our first team. They might make the squad, but if they don't and they go out on loan and we can flip them and make some money on them, it's clever business. It's exactly what Chelsea do. So
I was just going to say that I think that's probably the sort of thing, is how Chelsea and Man City do it. If the player ends up turning up good, like Oshan's supposed to, excellent. If it ends up being a case of Mascara goes and joins Sheffield United on loan, has a great season, and the team that get promoted sign him for £20 million, great business for us as well.
Whilst we're on that loan, we just mentioned loan. Louis Barry.
Yes.
What's going to happen with him?
Well, I mean, obviously, by the looks of it, he's not going to Hull now. Well, he can't go to Hull now. They're not allowed to sign anyone. It's a shame. I think he's very much one of them players who, similar to when Rashawn Hepburn-Murphy was coming through at Villa, I just really wanted it to work for him. That goal against Liverpool, he's a player you really want it to work out. Keenan Davis was the same, but I just don't think it's going to be the case. The injuries, so young, have almost ruined him.
He loves the Villa as well, doesn't he? He's proper Villa through and through.
That's the thing, and I think obviously you look at his stint at Hull. His first couple of games, he looked bright from what I've heard and what sort of Hull fans have said. I've got a mate who's a Hull fan actually, and he loved him. And then obviously the injury hits, and I think the 6 months that have just gone where he was at Hull, that was his moment. And unfortunately, the injury took it away from that.
Yeah, disappointing.
Yeah, I just don't think it's. I think it could be another loan, and who knows if he goes to the Championship, or even if a Burnley come in and say they want to try and use him in the Premier League. You never know, but it could be. It's probably going to be a money move, unfortunately.
Well, he's been linked with a move to Sheffield United quite heavily, hasn't he?
Yes.
I've seen that pretty much everywhere. I don't see a world in where Aston Villa sell him now. I don't understand why that whole City thing was even coming about. 3.5 million. Apparently, it's because of the relationship between our owner and theirs. That's what I was reading.
Yeah.
But £3.5 million, even with the 50% salon, is absolute peanuts. Villa would be absolutely daft to sell him for that, in my opinion. I think we should send him out on loan to the Championship, give him a good season. If he goes and scores 15 to 20 goals in the Championship, which he's a goal scorer, why can't he? If he has a good run, gets a bit of confidence behind him, why can't he? And if he does that, look at Cameron Archer, for example. You're looking at selling him for 10 million plus at least.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's the thing. I mean, I was disappointed with Kane Kessler-Hayden leaving for as little as he did. I think it's a very weird one. I think someone summed it up perfectly, where if he was a Preston player and had the season he had and Villa tried to sign him, there's no way we would have got him for that amount of money. So for us to have said to Coventry, listen, you've signed, this isn't my words, this is what Championship fans have said, the best right back in the league last season, to them signing him for 3.5 million, it's a bargain. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a sell-on clause and stuff in there, or a buyback clause. I think there's a buyback clause for us, isn't there?
I'm not quite sure on the intricacies of the deal, to be honest with you.
I think I saw something about a buyback, but again, sometimes I just think, at what point is it worth it? I mean, we looked at the Archer deal when he went to Sheffield United, and obviously see how that turned out. We had to buy him back, and it just didn't work out. Thankfully, we managed to sell him to Southampton for a hefty fee somehow, but it worked. But yeah, I think that's probably all on the sort of Villa players at the moment, unless you've got anything to add, Ben.
No, not for me. I think on that point, it's a good opportunity to go on to Spurs' business and what they've done over the last couple of days, because I'm really impressed. I got to be honest with you, I'm really impressed, and I did not see, and I did not envisage Spurs ever having this window. We all know how much of a shrewd operator that Daniel Levy is, and how much of a tight bugger he is in terms of investing in the squad, and Spurs fans have been heavily frustrated to the point where, you know, we've seen videos and protests all over the streets about Daniel Levy specifically. But they've just spent £115 million on two players in the space of 2 days, and they've not. And what's not worrying, because I'm not worried, but what I find quite impressive about it is that is the mentality of a big club. They've identified two targets, and especially that Gibbs White one. They've just thought, that's his fee, that's his release clause. Sorry, we're going in balls deep. We're paying it. We're getting him out of the club, and he's coming to us. Obviously the Kudus one as well. That, you know, that West Ham were apparently asking for 85 million for him, and they got him for what, 55. I think it's good business all round.
Yeah, I think you look at Spurs and you say, if they can get Mbeumo over the line as well. I know obviously the links to Man United have gone a bit dry, and he's obviously apparently said that he only wants Man United. But with the Thomas Franks sort of link there, if they can get Mbeumo over the line, they've got their front three sorted for a number of years for starters. But also, it's ridiculous, like you say. Spurs have sort of come out of nowhere this window. I mean, Daniel Levy said he wanted to try and win the Premier League or Champions League. It's not going to happen, don't get me wrong. I don't think these players are capable of winning the Champions League or Premier League just yet. But it's definitely sort of in the right direction for Spurs. Again, it's one of them where it's, like I say, it's brilliant business. They've done it really quickly. They've done it well. My only concern, playing devil's advocate, is it all too much in one? Potentially, who knows? But again, Thomas Frank's a very good manager. He's more than capable of dealing with egos. He can deal with Kudus if Kudus decides he wants to be a bit of a knob, so to speak. And if Morgan Gibbs White has a bit of a tantrum, Thomas Frank can deal with that. They've got a solid back line when it's fully fit. Obviously, the Romero deal to Atletico Madrid, from what I've seen today, I think it was Fabrizio, it's not completely off, but it's not looking likely at the moment. So again, that's another one where if they can keep Romero and keep Van der Ven there, they've got a solid back pairing as well. They've got young players in midfield, Bergval, who we spoke about before, and Papsar, another good player. They've got a very good young team. They've almost built a team for the next 5-6 years.
Yeah, Archie Gray as well.
Yeah.
You look at their forward area though. You've got Dominic Solanke, Richarlison's still about. I would assume they would look to sell him. Odebear, Mattis Tal.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've just signed Mohamed Kudus.
Well, actually, speaking of Tal, that's that's 40 million that they spent on him to activate that clause. So that's 150 million on a front three there. For me,
and then you've got. Then you've got Kulusevski as well, who's still about. He can play in those areas, but I think he actually looked better centrally for Spurs last season.
Yeah. I mean, might be a controversial take for me as well. From me as well, love a controversial take, but I'm a big fan of Richarlison, and I think last season he was probably their best striker and best player. I think he scored. I mean, not to quote any Aluko or anything, I'm pretty sure he was scoring a goal every other game when he was playing, because he didn't play a lot of games, but when he played, he scored. Solanke struggled, except for when he played against Villa, which is no shock there. Seems to be the case for everyone. But listen, I'm not a big Dom Solanke fan. I'm not gonna lie. I think he was good at Bournemouth. He's all right at Spurs. I think it's definitely somewhere where they still need to strengthen, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But it's an interesting one. I mean, you said about Archie Gray. I love Archie Gray. I think the pouters he got last year, I mean, it said something, I think it was on SofaScore or something, he was the worst rated player in the Premier League somehow. Ridiculous. 18 years of age, and he was holding that Spurs team on his shoulders at times, playing left back, right back, centre mid. He's an unbelievable player. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. As I say, my connections to Leeds, I've seen it firsthand when he was 16, 17 playing for Leeds first team. He's a ridiculous player.
What's the saying? Just let the boy play.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I hate that when you see these young, it hits from both parts of the scale. When you've got people that over promise on a youngster, and then when they hammer them, it's just like, just let them play, let them develop, because it's just, yeah. Archie Gray's a baller. He's a proper talent. I think they're going to go really, really strong next year. Myself, I think they'll be much better next season. Spurs, the league's going to be so tight next year, and this is why Villa fans sort of have a reason to feel worried when you can sort of say, when you've got these teams strengthening, which we have just touched on. I just think I'm not convinced that Thomas Frank's going to be the man to do it. That's my controversial opinion.
No, I completely understand that. I think that is one thing with Spurs that's going to be sort of discussed, is they've been waiting a while, Spurs, to get another sort of world-class manager in. The last one was obviously Antonio Conte. Is Thomas Frank a world-class manager? I'm not sold on it. Could he potentially become one? Yes. Is Spurs the right club to do it at? With their track record, no. Not because I don't think Spurs will do well, but purely based off how rash Daniel Levy can be. If he's willing to give Thomas Frank the time. For me, you look at Spurs' signings and you look at the players. This is a team, as we said, it's built for 3-4 years' time. If you can keep Thomas Frank around for 3-4 years' time, then Spurs will be in some serious arguments about whether they can sort of push for a title, that sort of thing. If they don't have a great season, let's say they finish 11th this season, which is progress from last season. If they finish 11th this season, yes, it's underperforming with the squad they've got, but it's still that process. It's players coming into a new area, a new team. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, I think they'll get top half this season. I genuinely think, and we'll wrap this up shortly. But I genuinely think the likes of Bournemouth, they ain't going to be in the top half next season, and also Nottingham Forest. I think they're going to fall off a cliff. That's genuinely my opinion on Forest. I think selling, obviously Elanga, selling Morgan Gibbs-White, two big losses. Now I know they've got a window to replace them, but with the added games of either the Conference League or the Europa League, which we're not sure which one they'll be in with the Crystal Palace situation that's still ongoing. I think they're going to struggle. We've been in European competitions now for
Yep.
3 years, and we know what it takes, the squad depth it takes, and if you get a couple of injuries, it can absolutely derail your Premier League campaign. Newcastle know that very, very well. Obviously, their season when they were in the Champions League got derailed by injuries. So I think Nottingham Forest will fall off a cliff next season, and that's my outside prediction for the league, which they're probably hearing from a lot of different people at the moment. But sadly, that's kind of the way the cookie crumbles, unfortunately.
Indeed. And I think you've spoke about losing players, which brings us on to the next topic nicely. Marco Asensio to Fenerbahce.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would almost be done. I don't know if I've got my opinions about it. I don't know what yours are, Ben.
To be honest with you, at times he was absolutely world class for Aston Villa. He was. I really enjoyed some of his performances, but I don't think he was. He had that really, really hot streak when he first joined the club, and then he kind of drifted off. And in the big games, he didn't really impact it, in my opinion. Like he come on against PSG both games when he come on, didn't really do much. He had that chance, which he should have stuck away, in my opinion. The Crystal Palace semi-final, he was very, very poor. And pretty much all the Villa players were very, very poor. Let me make that very clear. But for the wages that you'd have had to pay for him, I'm quite glad we didn't make that move. And also, it gives Morgan Rogers the freedom to play in that central role, and we will see the best of him next season. So I'm quite happy in a way. It's like a bittersweet moment for me.
Yeah. I completely agree. I echo the thoughts. I think, not to be a cringy sort of way, I'm happy it happened, but I'm also happy that it's done now. I think you look at his performances and it screamed Philip Coutinho to me. It was the exact same for me in terms of his first few appearances off the bench. He was unbelievable, similar with Coutinho. Then he had the odd game where he started the game and he was brilliant. Again, Coutinho against Leeds, for example, against Southampton, that sort of one performance. But as you say, there was a lot of games where he went missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in terms of, listen, he got a lot of goals, seven goals and 1 assist. But for me, I think one thing we have to look at there is, and this isn't to insult him in any way, he was a brilliant player and it's great to say he's played for the club and he was a brilliant servant. But 1 assist for someone who's a playmaker as well, it's not sort of the numbers that I think, yes, it was 6 months, but if you're bringing him back full time to play for us week in, week out, like you say, if you're pushing Rodgers out wide, you need to know that Asensio is going to go and drop you 10 assists in that season.
Don't talk too loud, because some Villa fans will be saying that's because Ollie Watkins missed them all.
Well, we definitely still need a penalty taker, but
Oh wow, yeah, it is what it is. We've moved on. I'm quite glad in a way that Villa have kind of learnt their lesson from that Coutinho move, because that one, I always look back to that Leeds performance, the 3-3. It was 3-3 with 3-1 up, and then we blew it, didn't we? And he got a goal and 2 assists. I think maybe
Ramsey
2 assists for
2.
Ramsey. Yeah.
I was
was
watching
ridiculous.
that up in Leeds, in a Leeds pub, so that was a fun time. But like you say, it sort of echoes that Coutinho. And again, I mean, we probably should speak about Coutinho a little bit. There's not a lot to be said. I mentioned to you, I mean, I was gutted when he left, and I think it wasn't a case of I was gutted that he'd gone, because obviously we needed to get rid of him. I just think it was that thing that just never materialised how we all thought it would, and it was such a shame. And I think even himself, I think he loved Villa. He loved being. I remember sort of when he was linked to leaving a couple of years before, well, the year before he did, and he put a post out basically saying he was happy at Villa, like it was all rubbish, like he none of it was real. He just wanted to stick to trying to get back to full fitness and playing for us. And even sort of he put that sort of post on his Instagram story about Villa, and I think it's one of them where unfortunately it didn't turn out the way we wanted, but it was just sort of one of them where secretly I was a bit gutted, but it was never going to materialise. And like I say, I think that would have been similar with Asensio, where bringing his sort of wages on as well. I mean, from what I was reading today, Fenerbahce have offered him a lot of money. They've offered him regular playing time, which he wants because he wants to get into the Spain squad for the World Cup. and also Champions League football, which we obviously can't offer, unfortunately.
I'm not going to lose any sleep about it. I'm sure you won't. Kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
Wish him all the best. Same with Coutinho. I'm glad he's off the books, but I wish him all the best. You know, we saw moments and glimpses of brilliance from both of them. Look at Coutinho against Arsenal as well, another moment of brilliance. But kind of is what it is. We'll move on. At the end of the day, no one's bigger than the club, and we will still support Aston Villa, whether they're with us or not with us. So, yeah. Have you got anything else you want to discuss at this point?
No, I think that's all good, really.
Right, on that note, I'm going to leave it there. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. All comments appreciated, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And as always, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.